Alright, I think most is functional. Mostly functional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the live stream. Today we're gonna make a very short kind of... I'll try to make it into a video and then upload it to YouTube. YouTube's been very fucky. And it doesn't really want to do video uploads, which is fine. We have a new Galactic Conquest map. I call it the Imperial Webway. It is based on the galaxy's major hyperlanes, which you're gonna have to use and capture and maintain control of, which is gonna be a lot more difficult than it is currently, because the major factions are now much bigger players than they are in the current map. Without further ado, we're gonna dive right into it. We got a couple new things to talk about. The Rebellion is the one with the spy dummy. We will be starting with them. I call it the Imperial Webway. Of course, after Warhammer. What else?
Let me the power of Remake take the entire galaxy. 4.0 is bred, and the just new update is mega for my Empire player carrot long life Remake. Jaren Dutch re Jaren Dutch re.
I'm glad to hear that, Iceling. I'm glad you like it. And thank you for the resub, of course. Alright. The map is different. A lot has changed. Planet layout, positioning. Lines are thicker and thinner. What does any of that shit mean? Well, it's very simple. We have a few major hyper routes running through the galaxy in some areas. They start, or rather they all lead to the galactic core. From the galactic core, they move to their individual places. We have one that moves north from Coruscant. We have one that moves east from Coruscant all the way through eventually to Mon Calamari. That one splits off in Champala and goes slightly north through to Coruscant, Taris, Botiev, Selenon, Sereno, Telos, Reltaween, and eventually leading to the corporate sector. The actual corporate sector, we got sectors now. They make a lot more money than normal planets. At Brental, which is a very important planet to maintain control of. From Brental and Coruscant, there are two major routes which converge at Lorinar, which move south. They go through Corellia. From Corellia, they split off further through to Bestine, Yakdul, to Bespin, and eventually Terminus. And there is also, from Lorinar, it goes down further to Adzeri, Malestar, Iridu, also connecting to Yakdul up here via Solist. And that eventually goes through to the Sluis Van shipyards, Dagobah, and Utapau. Utapau is a very minor connection. Lorinar goes through further to Elantine, Mandalore, Drachenval, Christophilus, Arcania, Ryloth, and the Smuggler's Run. There is nothing that moves directly east. Nothing moves directly east because you're gonna run straight into Hutt space. And they don't appreciate their hyperlanes. What does any of that mean? What do these stick lines mean? What do they do? Basically, the only thing they do right now is indicate the major travel lanes for the galaxy, and they provide you with a significant speed boost. You go, or you hyperspace 1.5 times as fast. Hype train indeed. You hyperspace 1.5 times your regular hyperspace speed, so 50% speed boost over the main hyperspace lanes. Now, the major lanes split off into other areas, and there are connections, which are the intermediary lines. These are the thinner ones you see right here. They run all the way through Hutt space, for example, and they go much slower. In fact, they only go 50% as fast, meaning you get a 0.75% speed boost whenever you go from, for example, Lorinar to Mimban, as opposed to Lorinar to Adzeri. Then there are the sort of the capillary connections, which really are just ways to connect minor planets to each other. You have, for example, the Utapau Dagobah. It's very thin, and you only go 40% of normal hyperspace speed, which means you almost go 50% slower on top of the 50% slower. And that is, for example, Mustafar, Sluisvan, Polis Massa, Terminus. You have Manan over here, which is a three-way capillary connection, and these are really only used to connect the minor lanes, really, the slow connections through space. Yavin, for example, is connected via two of these to Selenon and Arda. Felucia, Renvar, all this. What this makes for. Right now, they don't provide you with any credit boosts. You do not gain any extra money via the hyperlanes. That may happen in the future, but for now I want to see if this is sufficient to make the lanes important, just the speed boosts. This makes for a system where you basically have highways running all the way through the galaxy that split off into kind of branches, right? And that interconnect. It is by far most advantageous to use the fast hyperlanes, but obviously you do have to connect those. And if you want to go around the galaxy, for example, through Tatooine, Scarif, Sivris, Teth, Edu, Junk 4, Jabin, and Colonex, not only are you going to encounter a lot of pirates and a lot of planets that you have to chew through, but it's also going to be very, very slow. Whereas, for example, the direct route is much, much faster. And despite the fact that sometimes the distance, Lorinar, Alantine, or Atzeri, Melastar, is very long, you're going to get there pretty quick. Spotted Hosnian Prime? Yes, there is Hosnian Prime. Because it is in a very convenient location to split off from the Corellia system, which include Corellia and Rhodia or Duro. I think Rhodia is down here. Yeah, the Corellia system is comprised of Duro and Corellia. We got the Kuat system up here, which is Kuat, Belmora, and then there is another one close by. Yeah, 3 planets basically. I need to put that in the descriptions. There's a couple more worlds that have been doubled up or tripled up. For example, with Kuat has been tripled up with 3 planets into the Kuat system. Very rich. It doesn't tell me the income. Maybe it's yet to. Oh, it was doing the whole spawn script. Okay, it should now show me. No, it's still not showing me. No income. That's a shame. Oh, because of course we're the rebels. We can't see what the Empire is making. Anyway, systems are richer than planets. Sectors are significantly richer than planets. Sectors, for example, the Droman Khas and the Sith worlds. Yeah, it's not going to tell me because we don't have control of this. Makes up to 500, 600 income compared to planets, which we usually cap out at around 200. These are basically entire sectors which are under control, and while we don't have any extraordinarily powerful defensive structures, aside from maybe golems, to hold on to these, it's kind of your job to keep these safe. Most of the minor factions at this point start with, or at least some of the minor factions now start with a sector, and even one main faction, which is the Empire, which starts with the Endor and the Model sector right down here. It's not very well defended, it doesn't have a very high level of security, but they do have it, which is going to make them a nice amount of income if you can build it up. The Empire right now starts with 16 planets, including capital ships, frigates, all sorts of stuff. We got like a Venator over here. I don't think Empress Tita has anything too impressive. Coruscant has a Imperial Star Destroyer stationed. Kuat has an Imperial Star Destroyer stationed. There are several shipyards all the way through the Imperial worlds. They're white right now. I also changed the colors of the factions to be a little bit better and more easily distinguishable. But despite the fact they have a lot of production capabilities, they start with 100,000 credits, and they do have several capital ships in their arsenal. They are very, very spread out, and they are surrounded by enemies. And I'll tell you a little bit about how that's going to play out in just a second. First, we're going to move on to the other main factions, which are the Rebellion, which start with 3 planets. Yavin over here. Dantooine over here, and below here we have Hoth, connecting only with Bespin. There's also the spy dummy allowing me to see the entire galaxy right now. We're also going to keep it paused because the moment I unpause, shit's going to go down. The Rebellion has a lot of time. They don't start with any major powers right next to them. Bespin has Iraidu along with the Warlords, which are now this color. Which don't start with a whole lot, but they do have access to the Senex Juvex sector, which is very rich, and also has a very substantial garrison, including super gunships, a capital ship Saboeth, and several acclimators to keep it secure and safe. So if you want to break in here, you need a pretty decent force. So you're not going to be able to go right from Bespin into the Senex Juvex. That'd be a little too strong. They start with a lot of time. Over here you may have seen that they start right next to 2 Imperial planets, but you mustn't worry, these are pretty undefended. They have next to nothing, and these make for the easy pickings for the Rebellion starting of Yavin. The Rebellion starts with 75,000 credits, a decent amount of shipyards, which will allow you to basically build up whatever you want at whichever area you want. You can expand from all 3 sectors or from all 3 starting points if you will. Yavin, Hoth, and Dantooine, and you're mostly only going to encounter a few pirates left and right. Dubillion is intentionally even left neutral, and you can get in there. Munilist is controlled by the CIS, but they have a very weak starting force. They have next to nothing, and if you want, with the Rebellion and you build up a little bit, you can easily punch them right out of this area, allowing you to keep control of this entire section, at least until the Warlords come knocking through this area. And you want to have some built up whenever that happens. So you have time with the Rebellion. While the Empire, with their 16 planets and 100,000 starting credits and several capital ships they start off with, are completely occupied trying to safeguard their worlds from literally everyone trying to capture them, you as the Rebellion can start off easy, relaxed, and build out into whatever way you want, really. I want to talk a little bit about how this interacts with the Rebellion, specifically Yavin, but I'll get to that in a second. The criminal underworld starts off over here in the little Tatooine corner, with Ryloth, the Smuggler's Run, and Socorro. Only 4 starting worlds, but they are fairly close together. You can link these up if you want. You can link these up fairly easily, and then you can basically work on consolidating your forces and your starting world. Over here you have another easy pickings world, Hypori, from the CIS, which is also undefended, and that leaves, if the Underworld takes Hypori and the Rebellion takes Munilist, the CIS is left with only Mustafar, which is slightly better defended for sure. They actually have decent forces here. But that's about the only world they have. They are not major players in the game. So let's move on to some guys that are actually major players. Starting with the Republic Remnant. The Republic Remnant has control of 8 systems in total. They have Corellia, the system. They have the Kashyyyk system up here. Fairly close to the Mandalorians and Hapes, but we'll get to that in a sec. They get a couple other worlds. They get Naboo, which isn't that consequential. The most important planets they have are all close to the core. They got Corellia, they got Alderaan, and they have Kashyyyk, which isn't that close to the core, but it's fairly important nonetheless, because it's a sector and it's making them more money. The point of the Republic is to start pushing into the Empire, and they will do that quite nicely. Hosnian Prime is neutral, and they are very likely going to capture that first. Expanding to 2 worlds here. The Empire, of course, here starts with Loranar. They have Fondor and the Abrigado Ray. Fondor does have 2 levels. No, 1 level of shipyard, but a fairly decent amount of defenses. So you can't really lose that all that quickly. These are all pirates. They're not going to push in here, so you have a little bit of time to join this up. But you're gonna have to go through the Corellian sector, Hosnian Prime first, from Loranar and Rendili. Of course, Kuat and Commodore are separated from the rest of the Empire through Kato, which has a capital ship waiting, a Lucra Hulk, and there is Alderaan, also in control where the Republic Remnant is also in control. Agendau is a very rich banking world that I forgot to change the basic income of. I believe it's the home of the banking clan. Credits. Brantal, I think, is neutral right now, so that's not so bad. Basically, the few worlds that the Republic does have that are not inside this little area right here are pretty scattered. They have Naboo over here, which connects Iraidu with the Warlords, of course, and Farstein, which I think is neutral, but that is fine. These aren't gonna be. This isn't gonna be a big problem. The only other worlds they have over here is quite nice: the Camino system and Rothana. They have shipyards in both of these, and separated only by Krennic and his Warlord boys over at Scarif. If these join up, that can get quite powerful, but while the Warlords and the Republic Remnant are duking it out in between themselves, Mr. Tiber can just collect all this shit right now for himself, and he doesn't need to bother himself with any of this. You're right, we've had the CIS, which started with 3 and aren't major players. We got the Republic, which we covered. Kashyyyk I talked about, which is a very nice connection here. It's basically the only connection that is not all capillary connections through like Boss Pity, Salakyami, and Jabin, which makes it fairly important. The castle system now has both the Maw and castle all by itself. I see that we don't have Fatal Asylum. Welcome. Thank you for the host, dude. The castle system I see I have not re-exported the text. I should have probably done that. I got a bunch new descriptions and such. Yeah, any research done here, if you capture this, is 33% faster. It's not that much, but it is very rich. So, I see I made the ground inaccessible. No. Ground inaccessible. Okay. You should be able to access the ground on this. Edu is one of the Empire's furthest outposts. They have only a set of satellite defenses, a minor force. They spawned a fairly decent force actually here through the random spawn script, and they have admin offices, which basically is going to grant them a little bit of money. This is going to get completely smashed by either the Hutt Cartels or anyone else. Over here I said they start with the Endor sector, which can make them a decent amount of money. From Endor you can't go anywhere. You can get here from Kinyon and Bespin, and through Endor to Bakora and Rat-Attack, but from there you're trapped. So if the Empire secures this, it's a nice little defensive area for them. You can't get through Rakata Prime anymore through Rat-Attack. I want to get to the Warlords, but in a sec. The Warlords are awesome. The Hutts. The Hutt Cartels start with a very rich area in Hutt space. Right over here, that is this little section over here. It's called Hutt space. It's completely uncontrolled by the cartels, and from Nal Hutta and Nar Shaddaa, which is now one planet. You know, Nar Shaddaa is the moon of Nal Hutta, which is very rich, by the way. The Hutts basically control this entire area. They have a couple of nice choke points here. Slaheron is their other major economic world. Slaheron is a massive slavery operation. It has both high population and high mineral deposits, because you can do slave mining there. And no matter what kind of economic stuff the Hutts want to build here, they can build. They start with 2 mines, which will make them a lot of money. Varl is the original Hutt homeworld of the Hutt Empire before it was destroyed in, I think, 15,000 BBY. I put it there in the description. Not all planets have new descriptions. Circumtor does. Toidaria is a new Dalang. See, Dalang doesn't have description yet, but that's fine. Get to that. And so yeah, the Hutts start with 8 planets basically, including the very rich Slaheron, Nal Hutta, and Nar Shaddaa. These They should have Mimban over here, which is nice because that's a nice little outpost for them. I think they have a shipyard? No, they don't have a shipyard. They do have a mine though, so it's a little economic outpost. Atsuri does have a shipyard and they can start building stuff and expanding from there. They also started with several great gunships now, which is very nice. Basically, the Hutts are going to be the main enemy of the criminal underworld down here. And whenever these guys are done duking it out, and this is basically the buffer zone, we have these three between the criminals and the Hutt, which they will obviously get death. When this buffer zone eventually falls, it's going to be full-on war between the underworld and the cartels. But the underworld should have plenty of time before that becomes a thing. They'll be busy just expanding a little bit. In that same area, we got Mandalore, which is still in this area because I can't justify putting Mandalore like right here so close to Yavin. It just doesn't work. Mandalore has a few nice connections. They are the buffer zone between the Empire over here and the criminal underworld. And if they do too well, they can even start pushing into the Empire, giving the Empire yet another headache to deal with in securing its territory with its vast resources. Because while they may start with 100k credits and several capital ships and 16 planets, trust me, they have plenty to worry about. Even without these Mandalorians. Mandalore also has a cheeky connection to Dalang over here, which leads them directly to Hutt space, which is also a nice thing that may eventually trigger a lot of conflict. Over here, the other spawn point for the Mandalorians is Onderon and Daxon, which is now also one area. Onderon lies very close to Hapes through Zeltros, which is literally the party planet, which is amazing. It also makes a lot of money. The quote I found on Wikipedia was, "I never thought I'd find true love in Zeltros, and I didn't. What I did find was a double-jointed Zeltron caraffle named Lishal, who told me the errors of monogamy. I might never leave." Apparently these people excrete a bunch of pheromones and the planet is in a perpetual state of partying. And that's awesome. Tanab up here is easy access for the Hapan sector over here, the consortium. They started with their own sector over here. I didn't export the text. That's fine. High population, high mineral deposits like every other sector, because of course every kind of environment can be found. Tanab is a Hutt. It says it right there. I don't think you guys can see that, that's fine. Tanab was basically known as a trading port for Hapes. From Hapes, they can basically expand over here. They can go west to Corrida and push into the Empire, or they can go east into all these pirate areas, into Ringo, Vinda, and eventually over here. Or, of course, they can start pushing into the Mandalorians over here. This will likely create conflict through Zeltros, which is fine. It keeps both these factions busy for a while, and of course you got the Republic from Kashyyyk, which can also join in on the Zeltros party. Having had Hapes, the Mandalorians, they start fairly weak. The Mandalorians, of course, only two starting areas, but that's fine. None of them are sectors. That's also fine. Militaristically, they're still very strong because, of course, they are the Mandalorians. So we've had the Underworld, we've had the Rebellion, kind of the Empire, the Republic, Hapes, the Hutt Cartels, of course. The regular pirates are still just there, kind of sitting there, not really doing anything. Junkfort Station is neutral. You can capture that as the Empire if you have the balls. Yeah, the sea. Right. Let's get to these boys. So Dromund Kaas and the Sith homeworlds, along with Korriban, are the home of the Sith. Korriban, of course, is in the Sith worlds in that sector, but I decided to keep it separate because it's Korriban. You gotta keep that up. This is a fairly rich area. They start with a mining facility. I think that's the wrong one. In Dromund Kaas, they... Yeah, okay. just replace that later. The Sith start fairly close to the rebels here at Yavin, you might say, and you might think, well shit, just like now in the current GC, that's gonna be a problem. Trust you me, that is not gonna be a problem. Korriban is heavily buffered by Felucia over here, which has a pretty strong garrison. Instead, they are going to want to opt to go from Droman Cast to Malachor, which has a less impressive garrison. Only slightly, actually. Need to do something about that. Instead, they're going to be incentivized to go through Malachor and then Zygeria and then into the corporate sector. Similarly, the corporate sector over here, with the corporate sector and Bonadan, also kept separate because it's their major spaceport, is buffered by the gas giant over at Rel Taween, which has a very sturdy garrison, and then later Telos in case they do get through Rel Taween. Telos also has a similarly very strong garrison. This prevents them from moving down the main hyperspace lane into Sereno and then the weak Selenon Botiev and then eventually bordering Yavin. This is going to incentivize the corporate sector and the Sith to start fighting through Zygeria and Malachor, and I expect that to keep them busy for a good solid while the rebellion from Yavin has time to expand to wherever they feel comfortable, or through to wherever they feel comfortable. And if they don't feel comfortable going here, even maybe not taking the easy planets over here, Selenon and Botiev, which they can easily do, I buffed up their starting garrisons a little bit over here at Yavin, so they can easily go take that, or here, depending. Easy choke points as well, of course. Even if they don't feel comfortable doing that here, they can start expanding over to Dantooine, but they should have the resources and the starting forces to expand in all areas that they like. From Dantooine to Dubrillion and wherever. And of course down here to Bespin, and then basically everywhere except the Senex Jubex sector. Yeah, that kind of covers the Sith and the corporate sector, really. I'm expecting these to be mortal enemies and to start bashing each other's head in as soon as they can, and maybe eventually get Reltaween and Telos and Felucia out of the way. I earlier had a connection from Arda to Korriban, but just to buffer them further from Yavin, I set it up to Felucia instead. Capillary connections, as you can see, very, very slow. Very slow. In fact, let me just... No, I won't move him yet. Actually, no, I won't move him yet. Here's a capillary connection. Let me show you the slowness of a That's actually not that slow. Slow down. Yeah, that's not as slow as I had expected. I'll slow that down, don't worry. Anyway, currently this galactic conquest is comprised... well, we're not done yet, by the way. We're still getting to the Empire Warlords interplay, which is amazing. I love it. It's great. The current galactic conquest is created out of 145 areas, and that includes sectors, that includes systems, planets, nebulae, asteroid fields, basically everything, and all interconnected by the Imperial Web, or not necessarily the Imperial Webway, by the Webway, the hyperspace lanes, via which you should be moving. Again, they don't yet provide you with any credits, but I may set that up later. Now for a little bit about the Imperial Warlords, because the Warlords start off strong. I don't remember how many planets they start off with. They are relatively scattered. They have, for example, Scarif. They have Iridu, which is in a prime position to start pushing Sluis Van and build up the shipyards there. They have Bias, N'Zoth, Borealis, Ension, which is in a great position to get eaten, then the neutral Dorin, and then Bilbringi, which isn't all that heavily defended, build up the shipyards there. Then they have the Scylla sector and the rest of Chiss space. The Empire is completely and utterly surrounded. If you had not figured it yet, they are beset by enemies inside the core, they're beset by enemies outside the core, and they're going to be beset by enemies like over here that are going to be pushing in as soon as they clear the minor obstacles that currently stand in their way and are done infighting. The Empire is gonna get completely fucked, and that's absolutely intentional. They're not meant to hold on to these two worlds, they're not meant to hold on to this world, and while they do have Endor, which they should start fortifying as quickly as they can, I should actually put a little bit more stuff here to prevent the rebellion from taking this all that quickly. Basically, the Empire is going to be fighting the Warlords constantly. Bias starts with an Imperial Star Destroyer, and they will be able to push on Empress Tita, which may have a Golem and a little bit of a defense force, but it may not be able to hold from this attack force. Similarly, N'Zoth over here has a decent force, and Frisia is vulnerable. It does not have many defenses, it has a level 1 station, it has some Imperial X-Wings, which have the Imperial color scheme. I finally got those in the game, and you can build these at Frisia on Tech 2 as the Empire. To prevent the Empire? No, it's not. Boreas up here borders Coruscant. Basically, while you may lose Frisia and you may lose Empress Tita, you're not meant to lose Coruscant, and as such I gave it a Golem 3 defense station. Coruscant should be at least safe. If anything, that will be your strong point. And Nexus, Korralag are both under your control. They're in a nice little convenient line, but that's really all there is. Ventral is currently neutral, and you better get there before the Republic does. Then from Kuat and Commander over here, you gotta make sure that you keep your area secure and you keep control of your planets as best as possible before the Republic starts pushing from Corellia into Rendili. You don't really have that big of a defense set over here. Similarly, Lorenar is sandwiched in between the Hutts, what might soon be the Mandalorians, and the Republic. So, and more Hutts. So yeah, good luck with Lorenar too. It does at least have some satellite defenses. Nice. Basically, as soon as the Empire at some point gets control of the core, which again is a little, they're gonna have to fight for that. They will still be beset by the Warlords, because coming from Chiss space and the Shilla sector, they can go through the Redoubt, the Utagu Nebula, and then Ancion, which they already have control of. And from there on out, they can basically connect their forces here, and then they can start pushing into this whole arm, even into the main webway. And they basically can get fairly strong here. Rakata Prime is now only accessible via Chiss space, as is Ilum and Jeddah. And I expect the Warlords to do very well here. Even in late game, the Warlords are supposed to remain a factor for the Empire that they have to consider, making it all the more glorious if you do eventually manage to kick them out and kill them. And that's the map, really. There's a couple of capillary connections to, like, Arcania, which is fairly small, from Karida. Manan over here. Yeah, and let's let it play for a second and see what the AI does. I modified the spawn scripts. I modified planet descriptions, their income, their positioning. I obviously set up the webway, set up the systems and all that. Didn't do a whole lot of modeling, basically only the sector stuff. Yeah, and I hope this is going to create a very new... Oh, Ventral, changed from neutral to Empire. Empire got it, very nice. I think they moved their Star Destroyer. No, they didn't. Oh, no, now the Republic has it. Also did a few quality of life improvements, override radius of the planets, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, this is meant to really give you a a different experience for every faction you play. From the Rebellion's slow expansion and build-up to the Underworld's Criminal Empire, which basically slowly is meant to expand to, of course, the Empire, which is just going to be plugging holes for the entirety of the early game. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Imperial Webway. Have a good rest. I think I might after this. I spent a good amount of time on this the past few days, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. Empire players on Suicide Watch. Yeah. Very much like a stream where you play on this map. Well, I hope to include it in the next alpha, actually, so... Jesus Christ, the map. Is Dala part of the Empire? Dala is part of the Ma over here, which is currently pirate controlled. It's a pretty nice buffer force. There's a capital ship, 2 capital ship, and of course Dala in a Star Destroyer. Imperial Defectors, major land victory. Imperial Defectors, major land victory. They now have Doran. They now have Frisia. They won't get through Coruscant, but they now have it. What else is happening over in the core? Doran, which is up here. Eaton 2 is not connected to Boros. This is a completely separate line that you have to go through Ord Mantell and then north to Boros through Ordina. Hutt Cartel victory at Delang. Over here. Now bordering with Mandalore. That would be one pro game removed to immediately attack Mandalore, but I don't think they have the power. The Underworld isn't doing much yet. Maybe I should give them a little bit of a stronger garrison in their main world. Anyhow, what do we think, gentlemen? What do we think? Give me some opinions. I've been putting some music on repeat the past months, like, you know, how I do. Or months, the last days, where I just listen to the same track over and over again. Helps me work. I like it. So forgive me for doing that here. When you play, you can figure out immediately if it's working for you. I don't think you can play this multiplayer. Mandalorian protectors have now captured Delang. But the Mandalorians don't start with much, and the Hutts are very, very rich. If they blow their entire fleet early on, they're gonna get slapped around by the cartels. Underworld still hasn't done much. CIS equally has not done much. Of course, the AI likes to have its... and there's the Sith going over at Malachor. With their 13 interdictors. Mandalorians now captured Delang fully. We're just gonna see how this works for a little bit on the AI side. See how they do. Bosnian Prime captured by the Republic. Remnant, as expected. Hutt Cartel at Brandon. That's very nice. Brandon, wait, that's here. Sith? Oh, they have Sagaria? Okay. They need to start defending the corporate sector. Brandon, of course, is a nice choke point over here. It does border Kashyyyk, which the Republic has just captured. The Republic will not just go into that good night so quiet. They will fight for their place in the universe. Hutts again fighting at Randon. 1, Randon still under control. Hapes is very passive right now. I will increase their garrison, because of course they do start with only one area. They took Tanab very swiftly on my tests. They do have their shipyards and their golems. Sigeria, now under control of the Sith. And this is where wow, hello, they have a lot of production. 288 pop, they should start attacking. Because the Sith are actually going to capture the corporate sector if this continues. How's this doing? Bilbringi is now also under control of the Warlords. They haven't yet connected the Scylla sector, but that's fine. They do now have 1, 2, 4 planets in this arm leading up to Coruscant. They have Nazal Frisia leading into Coruscant. And Prestida is still standing strong, but Ventral's still under Republic control. Bothui is under control. Or they won at Bothui at least, not yet under control. Camino, of course, under control of the Republic, as is Rathana, Scarif in the center. I think they're slowly building up. And Bothui now also under control of the cartels. Bordering on Druckenwell, that will eventually lead into Christophilus. The Underworld is building, but they still haven't done anything. Anyway, let me read a little bit of chat, because I did ask what everybody thought. How many factions? A couple. Like 8? 10? Something like that. How do we Sith in the Galactic Civil War? Via Droman Kaz and the Sith homeworlds. Oh, the Warlords took the Utagawa Nebula. Utagetu Nebula. Are Clone Wars faction and Underworld CIS and Warlords playable? No, of course not. The Republic is in its death throes. The Warlords are just defectors. Underworld is obviously playable, though they haven't done much yet. I need to do something about that. I might actually move the main heroes over to Ryloth so that they can move from the Smuggler's Run and Ryloth into here. Geonosis and Arcanus. Took Farstein. Oh, that is accessible via ground? Warlords at Iraidu haven't done much. That's fine. The Empire... they have started building. Which is good. Maybe they're trying to reconnect all of this first. If they do, then they're gonna be able to just march right into, well, Coruscant. They can't do that quite proper though, so again, there are Golem 3s here, which I still need to make an icon for. Coruscant is heavily defended. They have they moved the Star Destroyer over to Shambhala. Yeah, they didn't build one. They moved the Frisia garrison with the Imperial X-Wings. They should capture Bentral and link this up. And from there, Alderaan and Kuat, I think. Kuat can build Venators. I don't think they can build Star Destroyers, but they can build Venators. Which are equally powerful. Definitely need to boost the Underworld. Meanwhile, the Hutts are just not really building much, except for freighters. Which they shouldn't. Corporate sector, minor space victory. Ah, they took Sicaria back. Ships lost 5. What happened to the entire Sith fleet? Did I miss it? Felucia. Oh, they went through the whole Felucia. Right, they must have lost a ton of shit there. How much did they lose? Ships lost only 5. Felucia had a big garrison. Now they're bordering Renvar. So yeah, they might start expanding here. Of course, at this time, you can already have, as they're building captured, Arda, Vyan, Vindar, of course, Selenon and Batayev as well. It's day 16 right now, so you have plenty of time. Though you do need to get going. Oh, okay, so they have successfully linked up their sector, making them 1300 with the rest of this whole arm, and then later Eden too, I imagine. So the whole north is under control by the warlords right now. Corporate sector, minor land victory. Units lost 51. So they might start pushing into Malachor. This still hasn't moved, which is fine. Corporate sector has now captured Malachor. Of course, the Sith homeworlds themselves have Golans, so the sectors themselves are heavily defended, except for Endor, and I think Cilia is also not that heavily defended. No, it has Golan 1. Of course, Cilia is very isolated from the rest of the galaxy, only accessible through the Redoubt and Utegget to Nebula connection, so that's why I figured they didn't really need much. Atzeri is building ships. Sith has captured Felucia. They're migrating. That's what they're doing. The Arcanus sector. Arcanus is down here. And Arcania is up here. Looks like a lot of fun and replay value. I do hope so. That is the oh, they captured Teth. Nice. So now they the Hutt have basically cut off this entire area here, and there's no more way through to the other side of the galaxy on top, or from top to bottom. We're gonna... Yeah, the Underworld needs to be together. See, they do have a strong force, but they refuse to actually attack. They are building. In fact, they're building a lot of stuff. They're building everywhere, but they're not attacking. Empire victory. Where was that? Empire victory? Oh! They took Teth. Interesting. Sith Resurgent has captured Arda. They're actually getting close to Yavin. Lol. My spy dummy is safe over at Hoth though, so we don't have anything to fear there. Endor slowly being built up. Oh, they can now build pretty heavy stuff here. Of course, sectors are very wealthy. If you want to build some economic structures there, you can make a lot of money. Liana! Right, that is home of Sinar. Liana over here. This is the home of Sinar fleet systems. I was considering making buildable ties here. Neutrally buildable ties. This reminds me of Total War Warhammer. How you have certain factions always duking it out. So it's a question of who comes out on top. Yeah, that was part of the idea. Except you also have the, you know, the choke points and such, the specific pathways you can take and that you're confined in. Right, I do have to still put the icons over the other planets. That's a thing I do still have to do, like Republic buildable planets and stuff. It's a work in progress, but I'm about ready to show it. Republic loyalists have captured Felucia back from Renvar. Nihilus is now cut off from the Sith worlds. That's not good for him. Hutt Cartels have captured... have captured Best... Oh wait, that was Republic? Oh, they came through Hosnian Prime into Bestime. Which means the Empire is now... Fondor is now... Oh, well actually Fondor has 17 corvettes protecting it, so... Empire's still too scared to capture this. Ord Mantell, now also captured by the defectors. Imperial defectors are very strong, and of course so is the Republic. Oh, nice! The CIS is finally doing something. They're the designated Get Slapped faction. Senex UFX sector, of course. Ah, I didn't export the text. Lazy me. And Terminus. They have a Providence and 8 Munificence. I should start fortifying. I can't really do that. I'm on Tech 1. Let's build that. Let's build that. Yeah, they now have Terminus, which is fine. I also fixed the description on Mustafar, which said population high and mineral deposits low. Of course, that should be switched. I just hope this means I'll get attacked more. I've gone entire playthroughs where I get attacked less than 5 times. That is not as it's supposed to be. Hutt Cartels have Teth back. I expect the Hutts to slap Edo out of existence eventually. Eaton too, now also under control of the Warlords. So the Warlords have this entire section over here completely isolated, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it right now. And they're expanding through Ord Mantell into the north, and of course bordering Coruscant, where they can't do anything due to the Golden Threes. Oh, the Republic has started building victories. Yikes. From here. Of course, if I were to tech, I would, because all the other factions tech up with you, suddenly all of these neutral factions get a lot more scary shit if I were to tech to level 2. So then you would start seeing capital ships. Because they're completely unchallenged right now. The CIS down here is just slowly expanding. Corporate sector still sitting at Melkor, upgrading. Hutt Cartel capturing Malistar down here. Interesting. So from Eteri, they're going, but they're now bordering on Iraidu, under control by the Authority. Istana now also under control. Yeah, I will have to increase the garrison for the Underworld, because at some point they're gonna hit max pop cap, and well, there's nothing they can do from that point. So I will switch up their, or I might give them Arcanis. Maybe I should. Socorro is like a pirate den. Ryloth, obviously, Smuggler's Run, and then Tatooine. I'll just move everyone from Tatooine to Ryloth. That should fix it, hopefully. Ah, they captured Reltooine, the gas giant. Very nice. So the Empire has the defectors. The rebels and criminals have some Nemesis AI? Not right now. But they do exist code-wise. They just don't exist on the map. Grush, you haven't played the alpha yet. What is this man doing with his life? But yeah, that's it. Defectors are expanding. The Imperials need to do something about this. Oh, do I see Screed? I do see Screed. Very nice. The 181st on the ground, just chilling. Are they building any economic structures? No, they're just building production. Are they so rich? Oh, they're pretty rich. In fact, the criminals are also very rich. Refusing to spend their units, though. Ah, corporate now has Malistar. Trucking well under Mandalorian control. 28 basilisks. Yikes. And that's basically it, gentlemen. That's what I've been working on. I will push this to GitHub, and then it'll might be included in the next update of the alpha. There's still a bunch of stuff to do. But for now, I think it works well enough. Are there any Crimson Command ships? No. So yeah, hope you'll like it, and that's it. Now I'm gonna go get me some food. It's like 9:30 right now in the evening, and I am hungry. Yeah. Alright, well, goodbye folks. Hope you like it, and we'll look forward to it in the next update. Ciao, ciao.